Good evening and welcome to Consider This. I'm Sharaad, Kuttan.
And I am Ibrahim, Sani.
Now we're going to be looking at some of the top stories of the day, things to wrap your mind around. Now let's start with a story that occupied many days of the news agenda, and that was the disruption at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Now we have a story that four IT officers from the Malaysian Airports Holdings Berhad have lodged a police report suggesting that they are not involved in the technical glitch. At least they kind of try and distance themselves from theories of human mischief involved.
Actually, these four Malaysia Airport IT officers made the police report straight after they themselves were interrogated. And it makes sense for them to try to distance this because, as we all know, this is starting to become very much of a mischief story, a story that revolves around individuals sabotaging KLIA. Whether or not this is proven otherwise or it is so the case, that still remains to be the police matter. But the talk of the town right now is whether or not it was actually humans sabotaging the KLIA, and that's why these four individuals from the IT department of KLIA is distancing themselves from.
Right. So the case is being investigated under Section 427 of the Penal Code, and that's causing damage to acts of mischief. I do wonder, though, Ibrahim, why is it that we so quickly fall into this conspiratorial mode of thinking? We think of problems that we have, rather than thinking, well, is it system failure? Is it about system design issues? Is it, there are a lot of reasons that things could have gone wrong.
There are two things right now. Number one, whether or not KLIA did communicate the problems very clearly, not just on what to do because there is a problem at KLIA, but what is causing it. Because until right now, today, 4th of September, it's been well over 10 days, nearly 2 weeks after the KLIA disruption. Are you clear, viewers at home, about what is the real cause, the real problem at KLIA? The reason we don't know what the real cause is fuels the conspiracy theory. That's one.
But, but also we don't want, the authorities to rush into giving an answer when they are themselves not sure. So isn't it fair for the authorities to have time to do the investigations before they pronounce on things? I know people are eager to find out what happened, and often, empty space is filled, a vacuum is filled.
It's always filled with
Nature
stuff.
does not like a vacuum, they say, right?
Okay.
But we need to be patient sometimes.
No, we can't. We can't be patient. Not when, you are asking travelers to come 4 or 5 hours ahead of time from the traveling time. And if you have, say, a 6 o'clock flight in the morning, so what time do you arrive at KLIA during this particular disruption? 2 a.m.? Because according to the travel advisory, that was the case. You should go there 4 hours before. These are the reasons why people want to know what is going on. And if there's no clear motive in terms of or indication from the authorities telling us what the problem is, that's when the conspiracy theories come and sprung about.
Okay, let's move on to another story that also kind of reeks of problems of communication, and this has to do with a special court that was set up to deal with human trafficking. And because if you take a plane and flight into Kuala Lumpur, you'll notice that there'll be announcements saying that Malaysian authorities take a very dim view of anybody trying to engage in human trafficking. Now, the problem has been, and this was revealed in a story by Thomson Reuters Foundation, that, Ibrahim, that only 8 convictions have been made in the inaugural year of this special court. Yeah. Now, this is significant because over the years, only 140 human trafficking convictions have been secured in 4 years. That's 2014, 2018.
Got it.
And this despite 1,600 investigations launched and over 3,000 victims identified.
Okay, quick question. What is the necessary convictions that is needed for us to actually satisfy our needs to say, okay, this is it, we're finally getting the bad guys? Or is 8 not enough? Is it 800? What is the right number?
Well, I think, if you look at the story, it goes to experts to say the problem is actually in the design of the law. The law actually defines human trafficking in terms of physical coercion. Yeah. And so we have human rights lawyer Edmund Bond weighing in on this and say, well, actually, there are many ways in which somebody could be coerced into working, and that is internationally defined as human trafficking.
Okay, so the problem now we see is very clear in terms of where the number lies. Is it lack of prosecution or lack of political will, or is it because the law was designed in such a way where convictions are favoring those that are doing the nasty stuff, and it's not particularly convincing for the prosecutors to go for full charge.
Right. Let's turn our attention to also one of the big international stories, Ibrahim, which is, of course, Hong Kong. The chief executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, has come out to say that she will formally withdraw a law that she said she had, for all intents and purposes, had died a couple of weeks ago. But protests continued. This is Carrie Lam, chief executive of Hong Kong, explaining her position.
Let's roll the uncut.
Incidents over these past 2 months have shocked and saddened Hong Kong people. We are all very anxious about Hong Kong, our home. We all hope to find a way out of the current impasse and unsettling times. First, the government will formally withdraw the bill in order to fully allay public concerns on dropping charges against protesters and rioters and shelving prosecutions. I have explained that this is contrary to the rule of law and is not acceptable.
So that was Carrie Lam, chief executive of Hong Kong, explaining the position. It seems to be an olive branch put out to protesters. But her last statement, as you notice, she's not addressing one of the key demands, which is that the government of Hong Kong not describe the protesters as rioters, and two, that they withdraw charges against those protesters. She doesn't seem to want to dial back on that position. So I think observers, Ibrahim, are still going to be saying, well, let's see how the public in Hong Kong responds.
I actually take a different position from you, actually, because you think about it, there are a big, major win. According to her here, the government will formally withdraw the bill. This is the strongest language that has come out of the Hong Kong government regarding extradition law yet. September 4th, 2019 was the date that we heard the formal words that is pertaining to a legal paper, a legal bill, formally withdraw. Before this, she said something about killing the bill, where protesters are saying that's not enough, doesn't go far enough. That itself is a win. Yes, I acknowledge that there are people...
So, Ibrahim, one of the things, of course, is that we have some numbers, and the numbers, this has got to do with arrests. Over 1,100 protesters have been arrested.
Yes.
So, you know, if the protests died out now and the government of Hong Kong proceeds with a prosecution of these 1,100 people, so that would mean they are left without any kind of justice, because they came out to protest this bill. Carrie Lam seems to have acknowledged that there's a problem with the bill by withdrawing it, and yet these people are going to be punished. Carrie Lam is saying it's a law and order issue, but really is it a question of the physical violence that was started by the police themselves?
Hence, it's never black and white, because if you look at the black and white story, this is contrary to the rule of law and it's not acceptable. These are the words of Carrie Lam. And indeed, they did break the law, they did protest against the police, and in some cases there were violence involved regarding the police and the protesters. I have to acknowledge that sometimes it has to follow the course of law, and in this sense, that is the case.
Yeah, but because we also know collusion between the thugs and the police, much evidence of that over the last couple of weeks now. I think there's also a call now for a public inquiry into what happened. That actually might be fairer on all sides of this equation. But we'll see what the wisdom of the Hong Kong authorities is with regard to this. Okay, we're going to take a short break now. We'll be back with a look at Britain, Brexit, and Boris Johnson.